Why are diesel and petrol marine engines so different? One's a grumpy old sailor who never quits, the other's a caffeinated teenager doing donuts around the dock. Diesel engines rumble like they're telling sea stories from '73, while petrol ones rev like they just discovered TikTok. You'd think an engine's an engine, but on water, they live totally different lives. Today we'll uncover why your boat's fuel choice is basically a personality test, with some surprisingly expensive consequences. Spoiler: one loves maintenance, the other loves mischief. Let's dive in before your engine throws a tantrum. In the boating world, choosing between diesel and petrol isn't just a matter of what's at the fuel dock. It often boils down to where the engine sits and what kind of life you expect it to live. Diesel engines are the strong, silent types, usually found in inboard configurations. These are engines mounted inside the hull of the boat, connected to a propeller shaft. Think of them as the heart of bigger vessels: trawlers, sailboats, yachts, commercial fishing boats, and workboats. They're built for endurance, reliability, and pushing through tough conditions, even when Mother Nature is having a bad day. Inboards require more installation effort, but once in place, they deliver torque-rich performance that's perfect for long-haul cruising. Now, petrol engines, they're like your fun-loving cousin who shows up late to family dinners but brings the fireworks. You'll mostly find them as outboards, hanging off the back of boats like oversized power-packed appendages. Lighter, easier to service, and often more affordable up front, petrol outboards are ideal for smaller recreational boats, water sports, fishing, and quick coastal runs. They're the go-to for weekend warriors and lake legends. But wait, here's where things get spicy. The lines aren't as rigid as they once were. Petrol inboards do of course exist, often in older, budget-friendly craft, or specialty boats such as racers or for water sports. And diesel outboards, they're no longer unicorns. Thanks to advancements in engineering and demand from commercial operators and the military, diesel outboards are growing in popularity. They offer diesel's famous fuel efficiency and lower volatility in a portable, serviceable form. And yes, even adventurous cruisers are starting to take notice. So what's the real divide? It's less about engine location and more about how and where you plan to use your boat. Whether you're plotting a weekend joyride or prepping for oceanic expeditions, your choice of engine tells a story, and it starts with where the power lives. If you're already learning something new, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm this video's worth showing to more boat lovers like you. Now that we've sorted out where these engines typically live, let's talk about what they're actually good for. Because when it comes to choosing between diesel and petrol for your boat, practicality should always steer the decision. Diesel engines are the undisputed champions of endurance. They're perfectly suited for long-distance cruising, where fuel efficiency and durability really matter. If your voyages involve crossing open seas, extended stays offshore, or powering larger vessels, typically anything over 30 feet, a diesel engine is your best bet. These engines excel in commercial settings too, such as fishing trawlers, tour boats, and transport vessels, where reliability under load is non-negotiable. Diesel fuel burns slower and packs more energy per gallon, which means you'll travel farther on a tank and handle heavy operations with less strain on the engine. Diesel power plants also generate greater torque at lower RPMs, making them ideal for pushing through waves, hauling gear, or maintaining a steady pace over long hours. On the flip side, petrol engines shine in the world of recreational boating. They're tailor-made for day trips, water sports, and the kind of casual boating where fun takes priority over fuel economy. Light, responsive, and typically more affordable up front, petrol engines are best suited for smaller vessels, usually under 25 feet, where weight and agility matter. Whether you're pulling a wakeboarder, casting lines with friends, or just enjoying a quick cruise around the bay, petrol gives you that zip and acceleration you want without the commitment diesel demands. They're also easier and cheaper to replace or upgrade, which is a big plus for hobbyists and seasonal boaters. To sum it up with a dash of nautical wisdom, diesel is for function, petrol is for fun. Or as one crusty old captain once quipped, diesel's for crossing oceans, petrol's for crossing lakes. Either way, match your engine to your mission and you won't go wrong. Unless you bring a petrol engine to a tuna chase, then good luck. Alright, time to pop the hood, or rather the hatch, and take a peek inside. Because while diesel and petrol engines might look similar on the outside, their inner workings are like chalk and cheese. Let's start with combustion, the fundamental difference that sets these two apart. Petrol engines operate using spark ignition. They mix fuel and air, compress the mixture, and then ignite it with a spark plug. Simple, quick, and loud. This method gives petrol engine their zippy throttle response and high-revving nature, making them ideal for bursts of speed and sporty handling. Diesel engines, however, don't bother with spark plugs. They compress only air, and do it so much that the air gets hot enough to ignite the diesel fuel when it's injected. This results in a slower, more powerful combustion process, delivering more torque at lower RPMs. That's why diesel engines are so good at moving heavy boats through rough conditions without breaking a sweat. But with this power comes complexity. Diesel engines require high-pressure fuel systems, precision injectors, and serious compression. That means more maintenance and more things that can go wrong if neglected. You've got to watch for water in the fuel, change filters religiously, and keep those injectors happy, or you're in for a wallet-emptying repair. Petrol engines, in contrast, are simpler and more forgiving. Maintenance is generally cheaper and easier, and parts are widely available. Spark plugs, oil changes, maybe the occasional carb clean if you're old school. That's about it. And then there's durability. Diesel engines are built to last, 5,000 hours or more if properly maintained. They're over-engineered, rugged, and efficient. Petrol engines, not so much. They typically clock in at 1,500 to 2,000 hours before needing a rebuild or replacement. So when it comes to raw muscle and lifespan, diesel wins. For simplicity and ease of ownership, petrol has the edge. Pick your poison, but know what's inside, or the sea will teach you the hard way. Let's talk money, because whether you're a salty sea dog or a weekend wakeboarder, your engine's cost will tug at your wallet like a strong tide. And spoiler alert, diesel and petrol engines bring very different price tags to the party. Starting with diesel, these engines are like buying a high-end cast iron skillet. They're built to last a lifetime, but you'll pay up front. Diesel engines are significantly more expensive than their petrol counterparts, not just to buy, but also to install. Especially for inboards, you're looking at a complex drivetrain, reinforced engine mounts, and potentially custom fittings. But here's the silver lining: once installed and maintained, a diesel can run for thousands of hours, making the cost per hour surprisingly reasonable over the long haul. And let's not forget fuel. Diesel is often cheaper per gallon and provides more energy per litre, meaning you burn less of it over time. This adds up quickly if you're logging serious hours or covering long distances. Plus, diesel's slower burn and higher torque mean the engine doesn't work as hard, extending its life. Now flip the coin. Petrol engines are much more affordable up front. You can pick up a new petrol outboard for a fraction of the cost of a diesel setup. Installation is usually simpler too, especially if it's an outboard. Need a new engine? Swap it and go. Parts are cheaper, mechanics are easier to find, and service is less intimidating for the average boat owner. However, petrol burns faster and less efficiently. You'll need to refuel more often, especially if you're running a bigger boat or pushing it hard. And the lifespan, shorter. Around 1,500 to 2,000 hours is a good run, and then you're probably looking at a replacement or rebuild. Bottom line, diesel is an investment. Higher up front, lower over time. Petrol is pay-as-you-go, cheaper to start, but pricier per mile. The smart choice depends entirely on how often you're boating, how far you're going, and how long you plan to keep your boat. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying the deep dive, consider subscribing. We post weekly videos breaking down the tech and traditions behind classic and modern boats. When you're out on the water, reliability isn't just convenient, it's critical. Because let's be honest, the ocean doesn't come up with a roadside assistance number. So how do diesel and petrol stack up when it comes to dependability and safety? Let's start with diesel. These engines have a reputation for being as stubbornly reliable as your granddad's old toolbox. Why? Diesel fuel itself is less volatile than petrol, meaning it's far likely to ignite or explode under normal conditions. That's one reason why diesel is preferred in commercial vessels, military craft, and liveaboard cruisers. It's just safer. In fact, the Coast Guard and Navy overwhelmingly use diesel for this very reason. Beyond the lower risk of fire, diesel engines are built like tanks. Literally, they're designed to run at lower RPMs for long durations without overheating, making them ideal for long-range cruising. And because they generate more torque at lower speeds, they don't need to work as hard to move a heavy vessel through rough waters. But here's the catch: they're fussy about fuel quality. Water in your diesel tank, that's an engine-killing cocktail. Poor maintenance, expect clogged filters, unhappy injectors, and very expensive repairs. So while they're reliable when well kept, diesel engines won't tolerate neglect. Petrol engines, on the other hand, are a little more laid back. They're generally easier to maintain and more forgiving of imperfect fuel. They're also great at starting quickly and zipping off without much warm-up. Great for recreational boaters who want to get going fast. However, petrol is highly flammable, especially in enclosed spaces. A leaking fuel line, a loose fitting, or even vapors trapped in the bilge can create a serious fire hazard if ignited. That's why petrol boats, especially those with inboards, need proper ventilation and regular checks on fuel systems. In summary, diesel wins for long-term durability and lower fire risk, but it demands consistent care. Petrol is convenient, responsive, and low stress for casual use, but it brings a bit more risk in the safety department. Choose wisely, because when you're miles offshore, your engine isn't just machinery, it's your lifeline. Engines and the environment have never been the best of friends, but in the marine world, choosing between diesel and petrol can make a notable difference, not just to your fuel bill, but to the planet. Let's start with diesel. On the surface, diesel engines seem like the eco-villains of the sea. They emit more nitrogen oxides and particulates compared to petrol engines, which can contribute to smog and respiratory issues. If your diesel engine is older or poorly maintained, it can produce that lovely black puff of smoke on startup that screams, "I haven't had a tune-up since the last century." However, diesel engines are also remarkably fuel efficient. They burn less fuel per mile traveled, meaning fewer overall carbon dioxide emissions for the same journey, especially important on longer trips. Their efficiency is one reason commercial vessels stick with diesel despite its dirtier exhaust profile. Plus, modern diesel engines are being equipped with advanced emission control systems like diesel particulate filters, DPFs, and catalytic converters to reduce harmful outputs. On the other side, petrol engines burn cleaner and more completely than diesel, which means fewer visible emissions, no smoke clouds when you open the throttle. They produce lower levels of particulates and NOx, making them a better option for short-term air quality. But here's the downside. Petrol engines are less fuel efficient, and they tend to emit more CO2 over time. They also evaporate more readily, which can release volatile organic compounds, VOCs, into the atmosphere or water, particularly risky if your fuel system isn't sealed tight. Then there's the issue of leaks. Diesel tends to cling and create slicks, but it evaporates slowly and is less toxic in small quantities. Petrol evaporates quickly, but is far more toxic to aquatic life if spilled. So, who wins the green medal? It depends on usage. Diesel may be dirtier per gallon, but cleaner per mile. Petrol may burn cleaner visibly, but it sneaks out more greenhouse gases. Either way, regular maintenance, responsible fueling, and modern engine tech go a long way toward shrinking your boat's environmental wake. Do you run diesel or petrol in your boat? Drop a comment below and tell us why you picked it. Your insight might help someone else choose the right engine. When it comes to marine engines, brand matters, not just for bragging rights at the dock, but for reliability, resale value, parts availability, and how likely you are to find a mechanic who actually knows what they're doing. So, who are the big players in diesel and petrol marine engines? Starting with diesel, Volvo Penta is arguably the king of the inboard castle. Known for rock-solid reliability and innovative technology, like their IPS drive systems, Volvo Penta engines are a top choice for cruisers and yachts. They're also not afraid to add a little Scandinavian design flair to their rugged engineering. Next up, Yanmar. These Japanese diesels are beloved for being compact, quiet, and surprisingly efficient. They're especially common in sailboats and small to mid-sized cruisers, where space and weight are critical. Yanmar engines have a reputation for lasting longer than some marriages, and being easier to live with. Then there's Cummins, the American heavyweight. If Torque had a mascot, it would be Cummins. These engines are typically found in larger vessels, think trawlers, workboats, and commercial fishing craft. They're tough, no-nonsense diesels built for serious use. Now for the petrol side of the marina. Mercury Marine is a giant. Their outboards are fast, responsive, and available in a range of sizes from small kickers to massive V12 monsters that can power multi-engine offshore boats. They're especially popular in the US, and their service network is vast. Yamaha is right up there with Mercury and arguably leads in reliability. These outboards are famous for starting on the first pull, or push, running smooth and lasting forever if you don't abuse them. Yamaha dominates in Australia, Asia, and parts of Europe, especially among recreational boaters. Honda Marine also deserves a mention. Known for ultra-quiet, efficient engines, Honda outboards are a favorite for folks who want low noise and excellent fuel economy. They might not have the flashiest branding, but their performance is impressively consistent. Whichever brand you go with, choose one that's well supported in your region, because even the best engine won't help you if the nearest parts dealer is 3 countries away. So, after all the comparisons, tech talk, and engine gossip, where does that leave you? If you're trying to decide between diesel and petrol for your next marine adventure, the answer isn't cut and dry. Like most things in boating, it comes down to purpose, preference, and how much you're willing to invest, both in dollars and elbow grease. If you're planning long-distance trips, own a larger boat, or need maximum reliability with minimum risk, diesel is likely the way to go. It's safer to store, burns more efficiently, and lasts longer, especially if you treat it well. It's also the preferred choice for commercial operators, liveaboards, and anyone who thinks a short trip is anything under 100 miles. On the other hand, if your boating life is all about short bursts of fun, skiing, fishing, family weekends on the lake, or the occasional high-speed blast down the river, petrol makes more sense. It's cheaper up front, easier to replace, and ideal for smaller boats where weight and simplicity matter. Ask yourself how you'll really use your boat. Are you cruising coastlines or chasing sunsets back to shore by dinner? Is your priority fuel economy or fast fun? Do you enjoy doing your own maintenance, or does your toolbox consist of duct tape and wishful thinking? Also consider availability. Diesel may be more efficient, but not every marina has it, and while petrol engines are common, they can be thirstier than a sailor on shore leave, so be ready to refuel more often. At the end of the day, both diesel and petrol have earned their place in the marine world. They're not enemies, they're specialists. One's built for power and endurance, the other for agility and accessibility. So choose the engine that fits your boating lifestyle, not just the one that sounds good on paper, because whether it hums or growls, the best engine is the one that gets you home with a smile and enough fuel to do it all over again next weekend.